Okay, give us 1 second. Have to send Haddi. Oh, there's Mom. Hey, Mom. Some reason Haddi is not coming on. Oh, there we are. Haddi. We're going to bring Haddi onto camera. You should be getting the invite, sis. We're doing things a little back and forth here. Just, okay. Hey, sis. Okay, so I'm going to close out of Zoom.
Good idea.
Okay.
Can you hear me through the phone, Hannah?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yay. Sure can.
Okay, I can't believe
our mom's on with us.
Yes, our one follower.
We always knew we had one. It's our mom.
We had one. It's like, you know, you're bad off when your blog, like your mom won't even like read your blog or watch your blog videos. So, yeah. But maybe Jamie's there with her.
Yeah.
So maybe we actually have two.
Oh, maybe. Well, we'll see. Maybe if you guys can figure out how to write a comment, you can let us know.
Yeah, I was like, if you guys can figure out how to do a comment in the bottom, you can tell us if Jamie's there with you, Mom. How can you tell who's there, Hannah?
Oh, I have that because it's my meeting. Or it's my go live.
So I'm not going to be able to see who's there. Got it.
No, probably not.
No worries. Jamie's like, I'm not listening to those two jabber.
She's like, I have to do that like every other day.
I know, exactly. I am getting like a little bit of lag time. Is it annoying on your end or not, Hannah?
No, it's not. I think we're just going to have to like actually pause after we speak to let the other one respond.
Yay, Jake and Anna Marie are here. Yay!
We're so sorry, Jake, that you were waiting for us an hour ago.
Note to self, make sure that we remembered it, because like we're on the Eastern time zone on my side and your people are on the in the Central time zone, so we got to remember to make that clear on our little advertisement thingies, on our notices, whatever we call them. I don't even know.
By the way, cheers.
Cheers. So this is our cranberry amaretto from our book club. And I freaking love this drink so much. Hannah, do you like it or do you not like it?
I know.
Okay.
No, I do like it. It is very much, well, and I just had to have another one because I tried to drink the cranberry juice without the amaretto in it, and it was tart.
You're like, this is not good.
So we passed it around one morning at the breakfast table. Zeke's face was to die for. Milo wouldn't even try it. Zeke was like, it was so funny.
Hard. Oh, Mom's got a margarita. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Okay, Jacob and Anna Marie, if you guys have a drink, please share what you're drinking. If you don't, that's totally fine. But this is definitely
doesn't have to be alcoholic. Any drink.
Even if you have like tea or a little decaf, you know. Of course, Jacob and Anna Marie might still be able to drink like regular coffee at this time of night because they're not as old as we are. Yeah. Diet Coke. That's legit, Jacob. That's legit.
That is impressive, though, drinking caffeine this late. Well done.
I know. I couldn't. I'm not even allowed to have caffeine after lunchtime because I'm a crazy person. I get super hyper and then I can't sleep at all. So
yeah, that is true.
It's problematic.
That's not surprising. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yep. All right. I was just checking the time, see where we're at here. Because I'm old school. I actually wear a watch.
I know. Hey, I have my watch on today too. Sundays. I always wear a watch on Sundays when I go to work.
Yeah. It's your work watch.
I don't like carrying my phone around with me.
So you can time your sermon so that like once people start nodding off in the middle of your sermon, you can be like, oh yeah, I guess I did go over 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't, I feel like people start nodding off in the middle of my sermons, like they're real tired, they need a nap, because really they're rarely longer than 10 or 12 minutes. So yeah, that one's gonna be, though I may have been longer today. Sometimes when I don't write a manuscript, I ramble. So
Surely not.
I know, it's surprising. So
yeah, I know. We don't ramble.
But, well, we have like 1 minute, Hattie, but should we just get started with the intros and stuff? And, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you and welcome to our inaugural Biblio talk. Thank you, Lainel Leon, for that particular pun.
Yeah,
I am
with
Hannah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, was I supposed to say I'm Hattie? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going to say more. It didn't seem like you were done. I'm sorry. Okay. She's Hannah. I'm Hattie. Wow. Okay, we'll need to work on that for next time. Oh my gosh. And we are clearly sisters. Yeah, I am in Philadelphia area. Hannah is in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. So if you came an hour early, we apologize, Jacob, for not making it clear when we're going to meet. So we apologize for that. We will do better next time and make sure that it is clear what time, in which time zone we will be doing our Biblio talks. Yeah, but, oh, and Joanna.
And Hattie is a professor at St. Kate's, and do you do it's theology, right? That's what you do?
It's theology, yep. It's theology, yep.
Yep. Okay, I'm like, she also has a master's degree in history. That's why I was like, having that question. And then I am a minister in Southeast Minnesota Synod of the ELCA Lutheran Church. So that's what we do for a job like thing. So
for our real jobs, are they? I don't know. We think that there are real jobs.
Yeah, there are real.
And
Hattie, why don't you say a little bit about the blog and how it got started?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna go in there. I know we have a little lag time between us, so sorry about that, everybody. So yeah, I think it was 2020. It was like right before the pandemic hit, and I just was like, oh, I kind of want to start a book club. And I had like no intention of it being like a completely online book club or anything. Oh yeah, but I'm not even supposed to be talking about the book club. I'm supposed to be talking about the book blog, which I just realized I was talking about the wrong thing. So I did start a book club, but that will be a chat for another day. I'm going to talk about the book blog that we did, and I don't even know when we started that. So maybe the year before.
I believe it was 2017.
2017. Hannah and I had been together at Christmas time, and we were comparing our lists of how many books we'd read that last year. And Hannah had read more than me, or I had read more than her. I can't even, or she was telling me how many, and then I came home and like, I gotta find out how many I read. Anyway, we decided that it would be super fun to actually like do this blog and do this little contest between the two of us, who reads more books, so on and so forth. So that was sort of how the whole blog got started, about I guess like 4-ish years ago at this point, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's sort of an ongoing kind of side thing that we post to sometimes, don't post to sometimes. And just in this last month or so, we both kind of just got the bug that like, oh, maybe we want to maybe do a little bit more with this. So this is our first sort of foray into doing a little bit more with our blog, and getting sort of into the book world, because we both adore books, love books. Hannah's got a house full of books. I've been trying to do more electronic books just because I'm trying to not have a house full of books. And I think last year we both read over 100 books. That was my first year over 100, so it was a little like pat on the back for that. I'm proud. And this sort of seemed like the next logical step.
Yeah. And so part of that is we have been reading books together through the book club and cocktails for the last few years, and then we had read a couple of books by ourselves together, just the two of us. And done, we did one other video around a book. We did a book talk. It wasn't Biblio talk yet, but now it is. But we did a book talk on, oh, Haddi, what was the name of that book?
That one was The City of Brass.
The City of Brass. Thank you. So tonight we are going to chat a little bit, and The City of Brass is a fantasy, is in the fantasy world genre. And Haddi has picked most of all of these books so far. But that so far. But it is like right in line with both of our interests in some ways. And so I'm a big fantasy reader. And then for this Biblio talk, Haddi also picked the book, but in her line of the genres that she loves to read, which is historical fiction, which is not a genre I tend to read very often. And Haddi doesn't tend to read a ton of fantasy. So this is our book for the evening, The Last Queen by C.W. Gortner. I think that's probably how you say that. Haddi and I had different editions. Hers came from the library, so the pictures look a little different. But and yeah, so this is our was a historical fantasy choice, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell my thing, Haddi. Yeah. Okay. So I again do not read.
Just go ahead. It's not historical fantasy. Hannah just called it historical fantasy. That's
is that what I said?
It's historical fiction. So just a slight correction there.
That's what I meant. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Historical fiction. Ooh, I'm going to have a hard time with that, apparently. So as not a huge lover of historical fiction, and I don't know if lover is really the right word. It's just not a genre I go to. I was blown away by this particular book. I did not know anything about just Juana. Yep. And then there was parts of this I was like, wait, is this real? Is this not real? But it is. It's not. It's a fictionalization of a real woman who was the last queen of Spain. And kind of like before Spain is like what we understand Spain is now, because, you know, and so it's a fictionalization of her, a novelization of her story, and it is really, really good. And I would say that what was surprising to me is it's not fast-paced. It's very internal. It's very much about her and like her emotions and the way she's like understanding the world around her, some of her hopes and dreams, and then how those get crushed, and how she finds a new kind of place, and then some more crushing happens. A lot of crushing in this particular story, but I was really captivated by her and by the story and the way that Gortner like really brought her to life. And without a ton, I didn't think there was a ton of like flowery stuff around it. Like it's a novelization, but it wasn't like, let's just put like all this really like, you know, dramatic stuff in here just to get people to read it. I didn't feel like that at all. So I was like pleasantly surprised by how much I liked it and how quickly I read it too.
Yes, this I agree with everything that Hannah just said on this one. This book was about, Hannah like doesn't know history as much as I do, so I'll just like put it into historical context in terms of who this woman was. So she was Queen Juana of Spain, but if you're familiar with her, she is known as Juana La Luca, and she's the daughter of Queen Isabella of Spain, who Isabella and her husband, of course, were the ones who sponsored Columbus's voyages to the Americas and so on and so forth. So Queen Isabella was also the mother of Queen Catherine of England, who married King Henry VIII, his first wife, would have been Juana's sister, Catherine, right? So not to be confusing, not really trying to be confusing to people, but all of the at this point in time, a lot of these royal families, they intermarry just to sort of keep all the royal blood together and establish alliances and so on and so forth. And even if you haven't heard of Queen Juana La Luca, as she came to be known after the fact, a lot of people probably have heard of Queen Isabella of Spain or Queen Catherine of Aragon. That was Henry VIII of England's first first wife. So just a tiny little bit of historical context. Catherine of Aragon was Juana's sister. Isabella of Spain was her mother. So yeah. That being said, I agree with everything Hannah said. This was a really good and very well done historical fiction novelization of a queen. I've read a ton. I've probably read like 25 different historical fictions of queens. The thing that shocked the crap out of me, I have to say, was the whole time the author goes by C.W. Gortner. The whole time I was reading this book, I thought that the author was a woman. The author is a man.
Oh.
And I was shocked when I found that out. Because she was written very well. And I have read a lot of literature written by men who are writing women, and it is not well done. I was really, really surprised that this book was written by a man. In a really good way, right? Like I was surprised in a good way because it was so well done. It didn't trivialize her emotions or her thoughts, while also sort of like it felt authentic to a woman in these kinds of situations. And oftentimes, too often, I feel like men don't write that very well. Because either A, they don't get it, or they just don't know how to write it in a way that resonates with women. So I was super surprised, pleasantly surprised. When I found, I wasn't pleasantly surprised it was written by a man. I was pleasantly surprised that this man was able to really capture what very well could have been sort of the essence of this story, even in this fictionalized sort of way. So.
And I did know that, but the reason I think I probably knew that, one, is in the back of my book, but the other is because I track the gender of the authors that I read, and so when I put it in my system, but I looked him up because I always have to double check, and I think he's written quite a bit of historical fiction, and he writes women. He writes about women figures. I of course cannot remember anything off the top of my head, but I remember thinking, oh, that's really interesting that that's what he chooses to do. So just a couple things I wanted to talk about. This does cross her lifespan. And Haddi, I was intrigued, and you'll have to put me in my historical context, by her husband, by the man that she is married, because so he's going to be the heir of the Roman Empire, like what is it? Because it's like a bunch of places, right? At that point.
Yeah. So he's the Habsburg prince. He's the Habsburg prince at this point. Okay. And so the Habsburg Empire is like what had been the Holy Roman Empire by this point has shrunk down, but it's still like the Roman Empire, right? It's still sort of like, it's still that, but it's just like way smaller. But it was run by the Habsburg. That was the house that were the heirs to this at this moment in time.
Like the Tudors, like that sort of a house.
Had like, yes, yeah, like the Tudors, right? They were in England, yes. But the Habsburgs were the ones, and the Habsburgs were around they're probably still around today. I'm pretty sure some of Queen Victoria's children married into Habsburgs, and so so these are like houses, royal houses that have persisted in England or in Europe for centuries, really. So basically, there's just all these sort of rival they're not nations, of course, at this point, but these sort of like rival areas. You have France, and in this book, of course, we talk about France a lot because the Spanish hate the French. Everybody hates everybody at this point, right? But the Spanish hate the French, and the Spanish don't really trust the Habsburgs, and nobody really likes England either. But we're trying to make alliances here and there with the marriages and so on and so forth. So he was the heir to the Habsburg Empire, which would have made him like the Holy Roman Emperor kind of a thing, right? And I actually thought his story was sort of like horrifyingly interesting, because he sort of like started out like actually like a normal, okay person, and then he kind of like really went downhill, really fast. It felt like, in terms of like how he treated all people, not just her. I mean, obviously she took the brunt of it. When things went really bad, she took the brunt of it. But I always feel like it's such a mix. And the other thing you have to remember too, and this is not to excuse anyone's crappy behavior, but there was a lot of sort of like insanity and like mental instability that ran in these families, and then they like all intermingled with each other, and it just sort of like made it all worse. And of course that is in no way, shape, or form an excuse for the really horrific behavior of any of these people, but it was a very real concern, which is why Juana, you know, throughout the story, her grandmother, her mother's mother, had basically been put away in an asylum, whether it was because she was crazy or because Isabella just needed her out of the way. The author kind of like leaves up to interpretation. But Juana is like seriously concerned sort of like throughout. This is always kind of part of her narrative as she's, you know, dealing with things, is like, am I going crazy? You know, and will this look crazy, you know, from the outside, all the decisions that she's making. And it was just a very real concern for people in these noble houses, because there was a lot of sort of like mental instability, hereditary.
And I felt like the author did a good job with that. I felt like he, and across the board, right? Like, and I think that's part of what was really intriguing and interesting, is there was this real internal monologue of, and her too, Juana's like kind of slide into, maybe not, I mean, because what was her name at the end was called what, Haddi? I'm sorry, I forgot already.
I'm sorry, her what? I'm sorry, what was that?
Her name, Juana Juana La Loca, right? And so,
you know, La Loca, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. I couldn't remember exactly how. But like, so her slide into like, you know, her instability at least. And his was not a slide. His seemed quite quick. But again, I was thinking about that, but like, probably for her, and we are so much seeing in this particular story her perspective of things, it would have felt like that because they were separated a lot of the time as well.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I really did appreciate is we start this particular story in Granada, in the concrete of Granada, as the Spaniards, and you have to correct any of my history, Haddi, but as the Spaniards expel the Muslims from Granada, who have lived there and built and like have been a real thing. And she ends up having a serving girl, a woman, basically a woman who follows her around, who was Muslim. And there was a piece of that for me that can go both ways, but I liked it because it forced me to remember that the world was so much bigger than these small particular pieces too, right? Like, kind of like there was so much happening, and there was so much hate. Like you said, there was like hate, like just all over the place, and these really wanting to have really clear like conquering and colonization. And so I really appreciated it, and I thought it was nice. True or not, who knows? But like that. Juana seems to, in that first part, appreciate the beauty of the Muslim culture and like that sort of aesthetic, when so much of everything's like the most depressing, like, you know, like everything's black and like cold, and the richness of that palace versus the austerity of the palace that she ends up not in the place that she goes and lives, because that one also is a very different aesthetic. Actually, he does a really good job. I hadn't thought about that, but of like really creating those different feels in those different places.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think that was a nice, not nice and like, oh, that was nice that they did that. It was nice in the sense that like, okay, that's actually like part of the history here, was including sort of like the downfall of Granada and incorporating that Muslim influence, because they had been in Spain for like a century at that point, or I mean for like a millennia at that point is what I meant to say. Maybe not a millennia, maybe like 500 years. I'm not exactly sure when they came into Spain. Now that I'm actually thinking about it quite clearly, I'm not sure. Anyway, they've been there for a long time. and it was a good way to incorporate them. I did want to actually touch on this one thing though, Hannah, that it was like this constant theme throughout this whole book, and it's like I feel like we can't like have this conversation without bringing it into the conversation, is the power plays that the men do, because they cannot stand the idea of not being the sole ruler and being the subject of a queen, right? Because it came into play so much with Isabella, and we don't even really realize that until the end, when her husband is now also sort of like trying to sort of grasp at power, sole power, and like the lengths to which these men, both Juana's father, Ferdinand, and her husband, the lengths that these men went to make sure that the queen wasn't above them, right? Even though they were the ones who were inheriting, right? Like that was the whole point. It's like the queen was actually the person who was inheriting the power, was inheriting the throne, and these men like literally killed themselves rather than let the women be the heir to the throne and like be ruled by women. And it's just like, are you kidding me with this? I mean, it was like it was like, wow, just like, wow. Like,
well, and Henry VIII and his dad, I mean, the men did not come out of this novelization.
Ground before, go ahead.
Yes, like, the men in this novelization did not come out looking well, ever. Ever. Like, there were maybe a couple side characters, like there's a little bit of nobility in some of the side characters, but like that was it. It was so they never came out looking well, ever. But I mean, even King Henry and his dad, who I don't know anything about, but like based on this book, I don't need to know anything about, because that was not normal.
No, the whole situation with Catherine of Aragon like is a whole nother like historical fiction novel that I've read, and the one that I read, I think by Alison Weir, maybe it might have been Alison Weir, Catherine of Aragon. I'll have to double check on the author, but it is Catherine of Aragon. It might be by Alison Weir, and if it is, crap, I'm not sure if it is Alison Weir. But anyways, there's an author who did one on all of Henry VIII's queens, and maybe not quite done. She has one more to do. And she's doing one on each of the queens, and the Catherine of Aragon it's great. And yeah, there was like a lot of like fishy, weird grossness going on with these guys. We'll just leave it there. We don't need to but that series is super good.
So anyway, there's a lot in this.
No, go ahead.
You can put it in the comments below. You can put it in the comments later, sis. Okay. I'll show you how.
Hannah will have to show me how to do that, but I'll put it in. I'm the worst.
But anyway, all of that to say, it was a really good read. It, and it does capture the imagination, and it taught me a ton. I still don't know all the details, but like you were really immersed in that world, and it was, it's certainly worth your time if you like this kind of book at all whatsoever. And it's Women's History Month, so what better book than Women in History, The Last Queen. And she's like super powerful, though she's supposed to be super powerful. Yeah. Anyway, but that's a whole different story.
She has just a tough
read the book and you'll understand what
her story was just her story was just a little bit rough, and that was the other thing that I really appreciated about it, because I really didn't know much about Queen Juana at all. Like I'd only like in passing heard of like Juana la Loca, like, and I honestly didn't even know that she was Isabella's daughter. I didn't know that she was Catherine of Aragon's sister. Like I didn't like have her placed anywhere. And like that was kind of the cool thing for me, because a lot of times I sort of like have at least like a vague idea of who these queens are that I'm reading when I'm doing the historical fiction stuff. So I found this one really fun and fascinating, because I was really learning about a person that I honestly like really didn't know about, but then also like the political finanglings of what was going on, sort of like on the continent, during a time period that I know like way more about like Tudor England at this point, right? Like I know more about that. So that was kind of nice to just like get a new perspective of what was going on in European history at that sort of like moment in time, which was nice. And to bring out this woman to life, who I think very few people probably have ever heard of or know about her or her story, and say, guess what? Women are part of history too, damn it.
I let her drink, people. I let her drink. Anyway, that was awesome. So anyway, cheers. Bottom line, recommended from both of us. Yeah. A history lover who knows a lot about history. And I'm just going to say, Haddi does, she's talked to me about history books before, so I will say she is particular. And she does, just because she enjoys the historical fiction does not mean she's going to recommend it. Because
that is actually really true, yeah.
So, so Haddi, as a historian recommends it. Hannah, as like one who doesn't read historical fiction that often, also really enjoyed it. Found it really fun, and I do think it'd be a great read for.
I'm glad I picked one that you liked, Hannah.
Yeah. And a great read for Women's History Month here in March. So, any last thoughts, Haddi, before we move to our next bit, because we're at 7:25.
Oh, okay. No, I think that was really good. I just want to like concur with Hannah. As a person who does know some history stuff, I actually really like this book. And anybody who like wants to know about queens or just like read about somebody you've never maybe heard of or don't know much about, this was a good read for that. This is like a good sort of like cozy sit down and read and just sort of like get into her story kind of a book. So well written, easy, and like not hard to read or hard to keep up with, or be like, what the heck is he talking about? So yeah, it was a good read, and I'm glad we liked it. I'm glad that I picked it and that we both read it, and I'm glad that you liked it, even though it's like totally not your thing most of the time.
Yeah, I really did. Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it. So speaking of my thing, most of the time, so we decided that we were going to do our reveal of the next one that we're going to be doing, our next Biblio talk. And so Haddi had found a list of, this is historical fantasy on Pinterest. And Haddi, where did it come from?
Oh, it came offtheshelf.com. And it was just, it was like one of their like, reading recommendation lists. And it was called 10 Historical Fantasy Reads to Sweep You Off Your Feet from offtheshelf.com.
So she sends it to me, and I'm scrolling through it, and lo and behold, surprise, surprise, I have one of them on my shelf to be read. So our next Biblio talk, which will probably be in early May. Oh, actually it is. It's May 1st. I think we decided. Is going to be She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, who I just like cannot say enough about this cover though, because it is everything. I love it so much. It's so pretty.
So, it is really pretty.
I picked it up at
again really quick. What's the black? Is it about just a shadow, or is it actually something? The black thing over the sun on the cover.
It's a flag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like a war banner because these are like soldiers here. So I think it's supposed to be like this.
Oh, I see.
Big over the sun.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good.
But yes, pick this up content on one of my book dates with a friend of mine. So we go down there and just, buy books.
And sort of like basically, Hannah, what's this one about? This one is about a young woman who, her brother who's supposed to inherit the throne, he dies, and so she kind of takes his place. It's something like this. I can't remember exactly.
Yes. In 1935, China lies under harsh Mongol rule for the starving peasants. When the Zhou family's eighth-born son, Zhu Kangba, is given a fate of greatness, everyone is mystified as to how it will come to pass. The fate of nothingness received by the family's clever and capable second daughter, on the other hand, is only as expected. When a bandit attacks orphans, the two children, when bandits attack orphans, the two children, it is Zhu Kongba, who succumbs to despair and dies. So the son dies. And then she takes on this, desperate to escape her own fated death, the girl uses her brother's identity to enter a monastery as a young male novice.
All right.
So. And it's written by, Shelley Parker King. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who's an Australian by way of Malaysia and New Zealand. She worked in diplomacy and international development, became addicted to East Asian historical TV drama, and after a failed search to find English language books versions of these stories, she decided to write her own. So, awesome. Yeah, it'll be fun. I think it'll be a really interesting book.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. Okay, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, and so that will be on May 1st. I'm terrible with March and May. I get very confused. I'm going to just do a little shout out and say thank you for all of you who came during our live stream time. If you had watched this and did not come during the live stream time but watched it afterwards, thank you as well. You can like and follow us here on Facebook. It's The Book War, or at The Book War 2 on Instagram. And we will, and Haddi has us on Pinterest.
I do. It is almost impossible to find us on Pinterest, but we do exist there. So that may be, a thing that will hopefully be better next time. It'll be maybe a little easier to find us. I literally can't find us on Pinterest, and I put us there. So, yeah.
I should find you a pen, Haddi, and, send it to you. Send you our own pin so you can find us. So we're working
You're
on
probably
it.
Gonna have to. I'm just the worst Luddite in the world, and I'm in charge of Pinterest. It's oh my gosh. Okay. It's gonna be an adventure, people. It's gonna be an adventure.
And then our website and blog is thebookwar.com, and we are working on some updates to that because that's been around since I think 2018, 2017, somewhere around there. So we're doing some updates with our tech support, otherwise known as Lainell. So we have to work on his schedule apparently. But yeah, so please do those things, and continue to follow us, and we'll just be making fun of each other and reading books and drinking drinks, because you know what?
And drinking drinks.
Survive life.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. Cheers. Our parents taught us well. Mom and Dad.
Mom and Dad. Shout out to Mom and Dad. We think Mom's here. Dad's probably I'm not watching their stupid blog.
Yeah. He's I'm not gonna read those books anyway. We should do one of these just about Dad someday. That would be funny.
We totally could, because he would never know, because he'll never watch.
No, so true. But so thank you. I'm just gonna say thank you to Rose and Danielle and Joanna and Mom and Jake, and Anna Marie. Yep. Sorry. Yep. For coming and joining us and just letting us chat for a bit in your presence. Yeah. So, Haddi, did you want to say anything?
Nope, just thanks everybody. Dad's listening. Mom just said that Dad's listening. Okay, now just so everybody knows, Dad only hears what Dad wants to hear. So even if he's in the background listening, he's probably not really listening. We love you, Dad, but we know you're not listening. That's okay. No, thanks everybody for coming, and thanks for supporting us in all this crazy business that we're trying to do right now. Hopefully, we said something vaguely interesting, or we're at least slightly entertaining for this half hour. And just have a real good, Sunday night, and maybe read the last week if it sounded interesting. Yeah.
And support your local libraries and your local bookstores if you can.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I got mine from the library, so it's definitely at the Bucks County libraries anyway.
And I think I got that one from Content. I think. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember everything I buy from everywhere anymore. I know we're surprised by it.
You buy a lot there, Hannah.
So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone. Good night. And till next time, May 1st, we'll be back. We think, as long as we can figure it out again.
We'll see if we can figure it out, next time. Good night, everybody.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.